They closed their doors, one by one. I heard the locks slide into place. I felt the air grow colder, and in that silence, I understood something no child should ever understand. I was not wanted. They closed their doors, on my cries, on my hopes, on my name. Every door that slammed was a verdict. Every silence, a sentence. Every step they took away from me, a wound carved deep into my chest. I was left outside, cast into the night, watching the light of their homes flicker through windows I would never touch again. And as those doors shut, I felt the world shut with them. They closed their doors, and the echo followed me everywhere. Do you know what it means to be erased? To stand with your hand outstretched, begging for warmth, and find only cold stone. Do you know what it means to look into their eyes and see not hatred, not even anger, but something worse, indifference? I was nothing to them, nothing but a burden. And when they closed their doors, they closed their hearts. Their walls became my cage, their silence, my prison. I screamed. No one answered. I knocked. No one opened. I wept. No one cared. The world feasts on outcasts. It feeds on the broken. It whispers, you are alone. You are worthless. You are forgotten. And I believed it. For a time. There were nights when the silence was so heavy, I thought it would suffocate me. Nights when the cold crept into my bones, and I wondered if this was all I was meant to be, a ghost wandering in the shadows of locked doors. But ghosts do not bleed, and I bled. Ghosts do not feel rage, and I burned. I remember pressing my palm against one of those doors, the wood rough beneath my skin, and whispering, why am I not enough? There was no answer, only the mocking creak of wood, the laugh of iron locks, the whisper of rejection in the wind. They closed their doors, and I died that night. Not my body, not my flesh, but the part of me that begged, the part of me that pleaded, the part of me that believed in mercy. I buried that part in silence, and something darker rose in its place. Understand this. When they closed their doors, they thought they ended me. They thought their silence would crush me. Their rejection would erase me. But rejection does not erase. It carves. It does not end. It begins. Every slammed door became a hammer. Every silence, a nail. Every betrayal, a wall. They built me, with cruelty, with abandonment, with fire. And so while they sat in their comfort, basking in the warmth of their own laughter, I stood in the shadows and learned a truth they could never face. The forgotten do not stay forgotten. The outcast does not stay outside. The exile learns to build. They closed their doors, and I learned how to open my own. They cast me out, and I learned the strength of standing alone. They erased me, and I carved myself into stone. I became my own fire in the cold, my own voice in the silence, my own empire in the ruins. And as I stood there, alone beneath the weight of their betrayal, I whispered words that have never left me. They closed their doors, but they will hear me again, louder, greater, stronger. This is the wound. This is the scar. This is where it began. They closed their doors, but I swear by the silence they gave me, that silence will not remain theirs. It will become mine. It will become the roar of my empire. Alone, forgotten, erased. The words were not whispers. They were anchors. They dragged me down to the bottom of a silent sea. The streets were empty. My footsteps sounded like confessions. Each echo answered me with nothing. Every unanswered call was a dagger. Every locked door, another grave. I learned the shape of loneliness. It has corners that bruise. It has edges that cut. I learned the taste of quiet. It tastes like metal, like coins on the tongue, like blood you refuse to spit. They never saw it. The way time slowed, the way the night stretched. They never counted with me. One breath, then another, then another. They never watched the hour swallow the hour, until only the ticking remained. Alone, forgotten, erased. I said the words until my mouth went numb. I wore them like handcuffs. I slept with them like a knife under the pillow. Look at yourself. Look at the scars. Only you know the names of. Do you see weakness? Or do you see proof that you survived? I told myself a truth I did not want. No one was coming. No one was opening the door. No one was lifting me out of the dark. So I listened, not for footsteps, not for mercy. I listened to the cold. I listened to the stone. I listened to the drum inside my chest that refused to stop. The heart becomes stone when hands stop holding it. It hardens. It learns. It refuses to be soft for those who love the softness only when it serves them. My heart learned the lesson. It carved its own laws. Beat by beat, it signed a contract with the silence. Every unanswered call was a dagger. Every locked door, another grave. I buried the need to be chosen. I buried the need to be seen. I buried the need to be kissed by their approval. And then I spoke to you, the one who listens in rooms where no one says your name. You with the eyes that pretend not to cry. You with the smile that hides the fracture. Hear me. You are not the sum of their absence. You are not the echo of their silence. You are what remains after the storm eats the shore and the shore refuses to disappear. Alone, forgotten, erased. I wore the words until they tore. I pulled at the seams until they split. I realized something they never wanted me to learn. Silence is not empty. Silence is a forge. In the quiet, I filed down the need to be welcomed. In the quiet, I sharpened the memory of every lie. In the quiet, I felt the first spark under the ice. A small warmth. A warning. A beginning. I spoke softly at first. To myself, get up. Again. 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 There were no witnesses. No applause. No open arms. Only breath. Only fists closing. Only a spine deciding to stand. Alone. Forgotten. Erased. Say the words, and listen to what answers. Not them. Not their doors. Not their names. Listen to the sound of your own refusal. It is quiet at first. Then it grows teeth. Then it grows wings. My footsteps stopped sounding like confessions. They started sounding like vows. I will not beg. I will not wait. I will not live at the mercy of other people's locks. Every unanswered call was a dagger. Every locked door, another grave. I buried the old version of me in all of them. I walked away with a heart that no longer asked for permission to beat. The streets were still empty, but the void was different now. It wasn't set swallowing me. It was making room. Alone, forgotten, erased. I let the words pass through me one last time. Then as they left, the silence shifted. I could hear it, faint, steady, dangerous. My voice, learning to speak without their doors, learning to build without their keys, learning to rise without their hands. From ashes to fire. That is where it began. Not in comfort, not in love, but in the rubble they left behind when they closed their doors. They thought rejection would bury me, but they never understood that the soil of betrayal does not suffocate. It nourishes. They thought the silence would break me. But silence became the furnace where my bones hardened. From ashes to fire. Every wound became a torch. Every scar, a spark. Every night I spent forgotten was not wasted. It was kindling. They looked at me and saw someone discarded. But the truth, I was taking root. Roots deeper than their walls, stronger than their chains. And in that dirt, I found the seed of defiance. Listen closely. When the world spits you out, when it grinds you down, when it buries you beneath its cruelty, you will hear it too. That faint crackle, that first ember, that sound of something alive, refusing to die. From ashes to fire. Do you understand what it means to burn? Not with rage alone, but with purpose, with hunger, with the madness of one who has nothing left to lose and everything left to build. The fire grew, dried by betrayal, defed by absence, defed by the laughter of those who thought I was finished. They thought they buried me, but I was only taking root. They thought the darkness would smother me, but it became my cloak. They thought the silence would choke me, but it taught me how to roar. The ember became a flame. The flame became an inferno, and with every rise of smoke, I remembered their rejection was not my ending. It was my ignition. From ashes to fire. Do you feel it in your chest? The heat that comes when the pain refuses to stay pain. When the cut refuses to stay open. When the scar refuses to stay hidden. That is not weakness. That is not defeat. That is power, raw and unchained. I was not chosen. I was forged. I was not welcomed. I was tempered. I was not saved. I was sharpened. They cannot understand me now, because they never knew what they created. They built walls to keep me out, but walls crumble in fire. They wrote my name in silence, but silence burns when you speak louder. They tried to erase me, but fire leaves marks deeper than ink, deeper than stone, from ashes to fire. And when they see me now, they do not see the exile. They see the flame. They see the blaze they never meant to light. They see the truth they cannot escape. They made me. With every rejection, with every betrayal, with every door that slammed in my face, they struck the match. So let them watch. Let them regret. Let them tremble as the heat rises. Because I am not the shadow they thought I would be. I am not the silence they hoped would consume me. I am fire, unrelenting, unforgiving, unstoppable, and I will burn until the world remembers my name. From ashes to fire, from betrayal to strength, from exile to empire. This is the truth they never saw coming. Their cruelty was my creation. Their silence was my song. Their rejection was the spark. And now, I am the blaze. Brick by brick, stone by stone. That is how it began. Not with applause, not with open arms, but with bare hands, torn and bleeding, shaping a vision no one believed in. Each brick was laid with my fury, each tower raised with my silence. They thought rejection would end me. Instead, it gave me the blueprint. My scars became the ink, my tears the mortar, my rage the steel that held the foundation together. Brick by brick, stone by stone. I built in shadows. I built when no one watched, when the world slept. I carved through the night, alone, yes, but never weak, alone but relentless. Do you know the taste of ambition when it cuts your tongue? Do you know the weight of carrying an empire on your back when no one even believes you can stand? I carried it. I carried it when my arms shook. I carried it when my knees bled against the stone. I carried it when the silence mocked me, when the void hissed, "Stop." But I did not stop. I could not stop, because every brick I placed was proof that I was still here, proof that I refused to disappear. Brick by brick, stone by stone. The walls rose slowly, too slowly for them to notice. But I noticed. I counted every layer. I remembered every sacrifice that cemented it in place. Blood turned to ink, scars turned to blueprints, tears turned to mortar. And as the foundation hardened, so did I. I was no longer the one begging at their doors. I was no longer the exile with empty hands. I was a builder, an architect of vengeance, a craftsman of destiny. Brick by brick, stone by stone. They laughed in their comfort. I worked in the ruins. They feasted on their false triumph. I sharpened my hunger on the grindstone of struggle. They thought they had won. But victory is not in the feast. Victory is in the foundation. And I was laying mine while they slept, blind in their arrogance. Do you see it? The grind, the relentlessness, the endless labor that no one applauds. That is where greatness is born, not in crowns handed down, but in thrones carved from scars. Each cut I carried became a measure of strength, each drop of sweat, a seal of ownership, each hour of solitude, a brick in the empire they would one day kneel before. Brick by brick, stone by stone, I learned patience. I learned cruelty, not toward others, but toward myself. I demanded from my flesh more than it thought it could give. I forced my soul to stretch until it held an empire. And when my hands trembled, I whispered the same words into the dust. Another brick, another stone, again, again. This is how empires are built, not with cheers, but with silence, not with help, but with defiance, not with mercy, but with fire. Each brick was laid with my fury, each tower raised with my silence. And when the first walls finally stood, I touched them with bloodied hands and swore they would not fall, not like I had, not like they wanted me to. Brick by brick, stone by stone, I built my kingdom in the shadows. They threw me into. I built it with the same hands they thought too weak to carry a dream. I built it with the bones of my past, the marrow of my pain, the ashes of my rejection. And now the foundation is unshakable. The walls are unbreakable. The towers rise higher with every breath I take. Brick by brick, stone by stone. They may not see it yet. They may still think I wander, lost and forgotten. But when the gates open, when the empire stands in full, they will know. This was not given. This was not borrowed. This was built. And I am its architect. This is who I am now. For a long time I avoided the mirror. I feared the reflection. I feared I would still see the beggar, the one knocking on locked doors, the one waiting to be chosen. But one day I looked, and what stared back at me was not who I remembered. The mirror was cracked, but the cracks drew a crown. My eyes no longer drowned in tears, they burned fierce and unyielding. My mouth no longer trembled with silence. It spoke even without words. My face was not the face of the abandoned. It was the face of something else. I looked in the mirror and saw the villain they created. And I smiled. Do you understand what it means to see yourself reborn in fire? To realize that pain has carved you into something sharper than they could ever endure? I had begged for love once. I had pleaded for mercy once, but the reflection showed me why the begging stopped, why the pleading died. This is who I am now. No longer the child of silence. No longer the shadow of rejection. No longer the outcast waiting for an open hand. I became the hand that builds, the hand that destroys, the hand that decides. When I stared long enough, I realized something terrifying. and liberating. The reflection I once wanted to kill, I now wanted to crown. The broken one had become the conqueror. The forgotten one had become unforgettable. The outcast had become inevitable. This is who I am now. They will call it arrogance. They will call it cruelty. They will call it villainy. And perhaps they are right. But what they call villainy, I call survival. What they name cruelty, I name clarity. What they see as arrogance is simply truth. They did not break me. I looked in the mirror and saw the villain they created, and I did not turn away. The lines on my face are not weakness. They are war paint. The fire in my eyes is not rage alone. It is destiny. The silence in my voice is not emptiness. It is the weight of power held in restraint. This is who I am now. The mirror does not lie. It does not flatter. It does not forgive. It reveals. And what it revealed was something they cannot face. They wanted me broken, desperate, invisible. Instead, I became the shadow that will haunt them, the voice they cannot silence, the empire they cannot escape. Do you feel it too? That moment when you finally recognize yourself, when the reflection that once mocked you now bows to you, that is not vanity. That is arrival. That is the moment you realize you no longer need their doors, their crowns, their approval. You carry all of it within you. This is who I am now. Not a mistake. Not a burden. Not a ghost. I am fire walking. I am steel breathing. I am silence turned into thunder. And when they see me, they will not see the exile. They will not see the forgotten. They will not even see the human they once abandoned. They will see the villain, the empire in flesh, the crown in the cracks. This is who I am now. My success is their prison. They don't realize it yet. But every step I take forward tightens the chains around their necks. Every breath I take in triumph is another stone laid upon their regret. They thought silence would erase me. Instead, silence became the sentence they now serve. The doors they closed tremble now. Tremble because they hear my name. Outside them, tremble because the echo of my empire rattles their walls. The very locks they trusted creak beneath the weight of what I have become. My success is their prison. They used to laugh when they spoke of me. Now they whisper. They used to mock me in crowds. Now they lower their voices, afraid that someone will hear them admit the truth, that I rose higher than they ever dreamed, that I became what they swore I never could. Do you see the beauty of it? I did not need to strike them. I did not need to lift a hand. I simply lived. I simply built. I simply thrived in the face of their absence. And that alone became the blade. Their silence is now their punishment. My name is the chain around their necks. They wanted me gone, yet they cannot escape me. They wanted me forgotten, yet my shadow looms over every room they enter. They wanted me erased, yet the ink of my success stains every page they read. They sit at their tables, feasting on nothing but memory, and every memory tastes of ash, because in those memories, I am not the exile anymore. I am the empire. My success is their prison. They hear my footsteps, not as echoes, but as thunder. They see my rise, not as chance, but as judgment. And with every headline, with every whisper, with every moment, the world speaks my name. They bleed. I became their daily torment, not because I sought revenge, but because I refused to die. Not because I hunted them, but because I refused to vanish. And in refusing, I became the living reminder that they were wrong. Their silence is now their punishment. My name is the chain around their necks. Look at them. Watch their eyes follow me, wide with regret. Watch their hands tremble as they reach for doors that will never open again. Watch their voices break when they try to twist lies into truth, but fail, because the truth is too heavy, too loud, too undeniable. They called me nothing, and now their every breath proves I am everything. They cast me out, and now they choke on the dust of my empire, rising higher than their walls. They mocked my silence, and now they cannot escape the roar it has become. My success is their prison, and the sentence is eternal. No escape, no forgiveness, no reprieve. Let them sit in their hollow regret. Let them wither in the shadow of what they created. Let them know with every sunrise that the ghost they abandoned did not fade. It built a kingdom. Their silence is now their punishment. My name is the chain around their necks. And I will keep rising, higher, brighter, louder, until the sound of my name is the only sound they hear when they close their eyes. My success is their prison. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret. The throne I sit upon was not gifted. It was not inherited. It was built from the ruins they left me in. Built from the bones of silence, from the marrow of abandonment, from the ashes of every door they closed. This throne is not of gold. It is not of velvet. It is carved from scars. It is stitched from wounds. It is forged in fire that only betrayal can spark. Every crack in my soul became stone in its pillars. Every scream I swallowed became iron in its frame. And the crown upon my head, do you see it? It does not glitter. It does not shine. It is not jewels that weigh it down. It is betrayal. Each lie a gem. Each wound a diamond. Each abandonment a jewel sharper than any blade. I was the silence they ignored. I am the empire they now serve. They thought shadows would devour me. They thought the dark was my grave. But I learned that shadows are not enemies. Shadows are loyal. Shadows do not betray. Shadows rise where light is denied, and they crowned me their sovereign. This empire is not lit by sunlight. It is lit by shadows. It is fed by fury. It is held together by the oaths I swore in solitude, the promises I carved into the night when no one was listening. And now the world listens. Now the world bends. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret. Do you understand the power of survival turned into dominion? Do you understand what it means to not just endure, but to weaponize endurance? They gave me exile, and I turned it into a kingdom. They gave me silence, and I turned it into thunder. They gave me nothing, and I turned it into everything. I was the silence they ignored. I am the empire they now serve. When they speak my name now, it is not with laughter. It is not with mockery. It is with fear, with awe, with trembling lips that taste regret with every syllable. They cannot erase me, because I am carved into the very stone they tried to bury me beneath. My throne rises higher with every scar. My crown grows heavier with every betrayal. My empire stretches wider with every shadow that joins me. And the truth they cannot face is this: I no longer need their doors. I no longer need their voices. I no longer need their world, because I created my own. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret. They will line the streets they once denied me, watching the empire march past them. They will bow their heads, not because they love me, but because they cannot deny me, and in their hollow submission, I will not grant forgiveness. This is not mercy. This is not peace. This is dominion. I was the silence they ignored. I am the empire they now serve. And if they ever forget, if they ever dare to whisper that I am less than eternal, I will remind them, not with words, not with violence, but with the weight of what I have built, the shadow of what I have become, the throne they can never touch. Let them beg. Let them crawl. Let them choke on regret, because I will not kneel. I will not break. I will not stop. And when the dust of their legacy is swept away, when their names rot in the soil of time, mine will remain, etched into stone, echoed in silence, crowned in shadows. I was the silence they ignored. I am the empire they now serve. I was the ghost they buried. Revenge was never the ending. It was the spark, the wound, the flame, the throne. All of it was only the beginning. For revenge fades when the enemy is gone. But legacy endures. I no longer rise for them. I rise for what comes after. For the generations that will speak my name, not as a whisper of pity, but as a hymn of power. For the echoes that will carry my story into places they never dreamed of. From nothing to everything. I was the ghost they buried. Now I am the empire they bow to. Look around. The empire does not rest in stone alone. It lives in every heart that refuses to kneel. It lives in every outcast who refuses to break. It lives in every silence that becomes a roar, every scar that becomes a crown. This is the lesson they never wanted to teach, yet could not avoid. You cannot erase what you carve in pain. You cannot bury what refuses to stay beneath the earth. From nothing to everything. I will not be measured by their rejection anymore. I will not be defined by their silence. I am beyond it now, beyond hate, beyond vengeance, beyond vengeance. I am legacy. I am empire. I am eternal. They will fade, as all who build on weakness do. Their names will rot. Their walls will crumble. Their doors will decay. But mine will remain. My voice will stretch into centuries. My throne will stand even when the world changes its shape. My fire will burn in the bones of those not yet born. I was the ghost they buried. Now I am the empire they bow to. And when history writes its final lines, it will not speak of them. It will not speak of their comfort, their laughter, their fleeting triumph. It will speak of me, the exile who built, the forgotten who endured, the ghost who rose from nothing to everything. That is the truth. That is the legacy. That is the empire. I was the ghost they buried. Now I am the empire they bow to, and forever they will.